It's only one house. That was one of the best pieces of advice I've ever had, and I'm going to explain more what I mean by that in the coming video. Now, I was in a networking event in Southeast Asia about 6 or 7 years ago, and one of the gentlemen there, he had bought a house in Hong Kong many decades ago when the price was much lower. It's now worth multi-millions, or at least we hope it is with the current ongoing crisis in Hong Kong. Now, many people would be impressed by that and would think, wow, he's got a great deal. But he made a really good point, and he said, but it's still only one house because it's his primary residence. If he dies in that house and his children inherit that house or that money, they're only going to be able to buy one house. So it's actually not such a big deal. And people forget this. A primary residence and a rental property is completely different, because unless you've got some kind of grand plan that you're going to downsize before retirement, or your kids are going to use that money they inherit from the house to maybe buy a smaller house and then, you know, diversify their holdings, it's really irrelevant whether your primary residence is stagnant or goes up or goes down. Well, going down is a bit different, because you could say, well, you would be in negative equity or whatever. But the point is, if your house is, say, just beating inflation by 1% per year, or it's absolutely skyrocketing in value, if it's just one house, one primary residence, it's actually irrelevant. Now, the way I would describe it is this. Imagine 20 years ago, a whiskey or wine collector spent $1,000 or pounds on buying a really nice collection because they thought it would go up in value. And let's say it did go up in value. But tonight, that person drinks all of that whiskey which they bought, or wine which they bought for $1,000 or pounds, is now worth 10,000. They drink it all tonight, they have a hangover, and then 2 days later, they have to spend $10,000 buying exactly the same whiskey or wine. You're getting the point I'm making, that when it comes to a primary residence, a lot of people, they get into this kind of vicious cycle, right? Of, okay, they see their house price go up, then they upscale their house as well. They go up the so-called housing ladder, but they forget that actually if the prices didn't go up so much, they would only be going up by the same amount, right? Simple example, if you've bought a 200,000 house and it goes up to 300,000, but then because the market's so hot, you need to go up to 500,000 to get the house you want. What's the difference between if prices have stayed stagnant and the next rung of the ladder is at 300,000 or 350,000? So often when it comes to wealth, people don't make the needed distinctions between a primary residence, rental property, and also between a primary residence and also different kinds of investments like stocks and bonds and whatever. You know, your primary residence is better to use it as a home. It's not a pension unless you get very lucky. It's not an investment really unless you downsize it in retirement and so on. If you just plan to live in the same house until you die, moreover, it doesn't really matter how high, in most cases, the values go, because your children are only going to be able to buy the same amount of house anyway. Okay, everyone, I've got some really exciting news today. So for a couple of years now, many people have asked me, well, look, I can't afford your minimum investments, but I really like your advice. I don't know if you can do this or you can do that, or you can help me in that way, or you can't help me in that way. I've always said, no, I can only do this or that, but I've got some really exciting news, and that's that in a couple of months before the end of the year, I will be bringing out what I'm calling the Adam File Academy, which will have many new areas which will be of interest to people. So things like mentoring, tutoring, all those kind of things that people have asked me for in the past. So stay tuned. I'm going to be announcing it in the next few months, but I thought I would tell it to you guys before. Let me know if there's anything in particular that you're looking for in this academy. We're going to be focusing on many different areas, including how to invest productively, also some business areas, because that's another thing people have asked me about before. So stay tuned, and I'll keep you up to date.